Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. You join me again in my room for, you guessed it, we're talking about more car rants today, though today is more of an educational car rant, I should say. Nevertheless, I hope you are entertained by it. We got some cool topics we're gonna go over, and let's get right to the video. Alrighty guys, welcome back to another car rant. Now before I get on to our topic today that you probably saw in the title, there's actually some car news out I just wanted to cover briefly. First off, new Ford Bronco is finally out. I mean, they did like C8 Corvette levels of not releasing for so long. So it's been a while since we even thought they were doing a new Bronco, and it's finally out. We have all the specs. I'm not going to go through them all, but personally, I think it's really cool looking. I think it's a really neat alternative to the Jeep, something a little different, and I think it's really cool. Now, our local mechanic, Alan, has told me to say that all of the new off-road tech features that the Bronco has, the Jeep already has. I mean, it's kind of whatever. I think you get a really good off-roader no matter what you get. I just personally think I would actually go Bronco because I think it looks a little better and it's a little different. So I think great job, Ford. You did good, although the Bronco Sport, of course Ford capitalizes on their names, Mach-E, but you know, it's whatever. I think that the Bronco is cool. Definitely would get the two-door, and that's all I have to say about that, really. Also, car news, we have Stellantis. Now, if you don't know what Stellantis is, so FCA, which is Fiat Chrysler, they own, you know, Fiat, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Dodge, all those brands. They just merged with a bunch of French companies like Peugeot. They're like massive now. They have so many car companies, and they're called Stellantis. Alan now works for Stellantis, which is pretty funny. Kind of a weird name. I'm probably going to do my own video on that later, so stay tuned for that. Car news aside, today's topic of this educational car rant is something called Aerovectoring. This is something I'm really interested in, and I'm just going to talk about it. And yeah. Aerovectoring, if you guys know what torque vectoring is sort of a similar thing. So torque vectoring is, say you're in a wheelchair, that's how you steer. You slow the one wheel down, speed the other wheel up, and you can turn, and like that. That's how tanks turn. One wheel has power, the other doesn't, and you turn. Cars already have that, where they apply brakes to one side, that's on the inside of a turn, and that helps you get around the turn faster. Now, something new coming up in super crazy hypercars, something called Aerovectoring in our pursuit of faster lap times. So, if you guys watched my previous video about spoilers, you know how downforce worked, right? You have an upside down airplane wing on your car, it creates low pressure beneath, high pressure above, pushes the tires down, you get more grip. New technology called Aerovectoring is something that a few cars are starting to do, it's starting to emerge, that should help them go around corners even faster. Same principle as torque vectoring, where you apply one force to the other, and it does, you know, magical things. There are 3 cars that I know of so far that have applied this Aerovectoring, and they all do it in slightly different ways, and we're going to look at all of them. I think it's really cool. So, the first and probably wildest is the Zenvo TS RS. Alright, they just added it to Forza, which is actually kind of what motivated me to make this video. So you have that wild wing on the back, and I'm going to talk about how it's theoretically supposed to work. Well, first off, let's go over it. It's called a centripetal wing, okay? And so as you're driving, it provides downforce like a normal wing would. But when you're turning, it leans, it moves, it's wild. It's really kind of disconcerting. And apparently, while they were testing this around a track, I think it was Circuit de Spa, the wing was tilting and they kept getting pulled over because the officials thought it was broken and it was a safety hazard. So as you turn, you're going around a corner, going around an inside corner. What does the car do while you're going around an inside corner? It leans to the outside, right? I'm sure you've all experienced it while you're driving or riding in a car, right? As you turn, say to the left, the car leans right, right? You're turning, it leans that way. Now, Aerovectoring is supposed to counter this. So what the Zenvo does is while you're turning, it tilts the wing outward. So if I'm turning, the wing would be tilted this way. Okay, so you're turning that way, the wing tilts that way, like that. So what that does, initially I thought that it was providing sideways downforce, which is a terrible idea and would not work, which is why there are some critics about it, myself included. But recently I figured out how it actually works. Well, I read about how it's actually supposed to work. And what happens is, as it leans, this side is higher than the other side. So you get more air passing over the high side and less air passing over the low side. So what that does is as you get more downforce on the inside, less downforce on the outside, it actually creates a pivot. So it counters the car lean. So as the car is leaning, downforce here, less downforce there, it pushes the car back down. That way you get the grip of all 4 tires on the road while you're going around a corner. It's an interesting way to do it, and it just looks so weird when the wing is turning, but that's how it's supposed to work, is you get more downforce here, less downforce here, and it counters that body roll. And when you have no body roll, you get more contact with the tires, get more grip around the corner. Now, the Zenvo hasn't been officially tested yet, though I believe they're actually selling them, but like there's no lap times out there that I could find anyway that show that it's faster than a car that doesn't have it. It's still a relatively new and kind of unproven thing, but another car I'll talk to you about, it might actually have some proof that it works, but that's how it works in theory. I have an idea why Zenvo did this. You know, does it actually help the car go faster? Maybe. Theoretically, it should, but also just having a big flat wing might work almost as well, and then you have the added weight, so it might just counter out. I don't know. But it made Zenvo famous, for sure. Having a wing that does that all over the place, it made them famous for something other than catching fire, which is, I think, what they were going for. Needless to say, it's a cool technology, and I'm always down for crazy things, even if they're just gimmicks. It's just cool. Now, car number 2, and I believe this was actually the first car to attempt something like this. The Pagani Huayra, alright, here's a picture of it. And also I think the better looking version of the Huayra BC, okay? So you have these Aero Flaps on it. You can see the flaps on the back side of the car and the front side of the car, and these are supposed to do the same thing. When you have the flaps fully up, that's your full downforce mode, okay? As the air passes over them, you get high pressure on top, low pressure on the bottom. Works like a wing, except it's a deployable flap. And they can also do air braking and that kind of stuff. Now, it's the same concept as Zenvo. When you're turning, the inside flap goes up, and the outside flap stays down. So you have no downforce here, full downforce here. Same thing, supposed to stop the car from turning. I actually think this is a better solution than the Zenvo, because the Zenvo tilting wing takes some time, whereas the flaps can move quicker. And I think they provide a more differential of downforce, right? You get a lot more downforce here and less here, rather than a sloping wing, which is, it's just weird. But I think the flaps is a really cool idea, and the Pagani has them on the front as well. So not only do you get vectoring on the side, you get vectoring on the front too. So it's like the full car is getting pushed down on this side. The Huayra is a really fast car, but again, they're so rare, it's hard to find lap times proving that the flaps actually work, rather than not having them at all. Now, I think that this is a better solution than the Zenvos. It certainly looks cool anyway, and it's different, and that's what all these small performance cars are about, is standing out, having a new solution that works better than, you know, your standard just wing. The Huayra BC actually has the wing and the flaps, which is pretty cool. Really cool idea, same thing, Aerovectoring, more downforce. The other car that I can think of, there's actually 2, but it's kind of the same thing. The first was the Lamborghini Huracan Performante. I love this car, and I really love it. It's hard to see the actual Aero, whereas the Zenvo has this wing that goes like that, and the Pagani has flaps that go all crazy. The Performante has something more subtle, but what I think is actually the best solution. And there's actually, I mean, pretty solid proof that this works. A Lamborghini went super big brain on this Aero solution, which is awesome, because Lamborghini usually doesn't do that and just makes their cars look cool, which I'm all for, but having a cool looking car that can go fast too, it's pretty awesome. The Performante, you can notice the big wing on the front and the splitter up front, and they have what's called the ALA system. Now, if you remember when the Performante came out, they made a huge deal out of this, and you hopefully know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to go over it anyway. If you remember back to my spoiler video, which you should go watch, the wing on the back, it's hollow. So the struts and then the wing are hollow. So remember, low pressure underneath the wing, high pressure above crease, downforce. Now what the Lamborghini does is active aero without actually moving the wing. They have these tiny flaps inside the vents leading up to the wing, and when they open, air can actually pass through the wing and then out the bottom, which gets rid of that low pressure area under the wing, which basically negates your downforce and gives you less drag without moving the wing. It's just little flaps that move, which they say can move, I don't know, some ridiculous amount of time very quickly, and high response time, which is awesome, right? So that way you can have a wing that doesn't move, but you can change whether you have downforce or not, drag or not, depending on the situation. But that's not even the best part. The real trick part is that it's divided in half, so you can open one flap and keep the other closed, or vice versa. Which means, without actually moving the wing, you can have high pressure, low pressure, and then high pressure, high pressure. Which means downforce on one side, downforce not on the other side. Really cool. Now they don't have this in the front. They say they attempted to put it on the splitter, but it had no difference. So the splitter just has one flap that can do downforce or not. There's no actual Aerovectoring on the front, but there is on the back. So same thing, when you're going around a corner, you want downforce on the inside, no downforce on the outside. It stops the car from leaning and you're stuck to the road. That's Lamborghini's solution. Personally, I think it's the coolest solution, probably the simplest and the best way of doing it. And they actually applied this on the Aventador SVJ as well, which I think actually has Aerovectoring on the splitter and the wing, but the Huracan was the first to do it, and I think the most famous one. Mainly because, if you guys remember when the Performante came out, it beat the Porsche 918 Spider's time around the Nürburgring, which was like, what? Excuse me? Because remember, at this time, the Porsche was part of the LaFerrari McLaren whole thing, where it was basically unbeatable. Like, you can't touch the Porsche. And then Lamborghini went and beat it with a $200,000 V10 630 horsepower car. Everybody thought that Lamborghini faked it. And now I think we finally come around to believe it, but this aero system on the Lamborghini worked. It made it faster than the Porsche that had significantly more power. Plus, I think it was lighter without the hybrid system and all that, but I think that aero system actually works. Really cool. The Lamborghini, and it won Motor Trend's Best Driver's Car, has just been an awesome car to drive. It's so cool. Those are the 3 ways of doing Aerovectoring. All right, downforce on the inside, no downforce on the outside, or less downforce on the outside. Which do you guys like the best? Personally, I like the Lamborghinis, though the others are certainly more flamboyant, which is interesting because Lamborghini's usually the one to do that. So that's my educational car rant. Make sure to go check out my other videos. We'll have some other car rants coming out. We'll have car videos, even some Minecraft redstone tutorials. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week. Ooh, that one. Ooh. All right, play intro. Okay, no, not yet. All right, gotta prepare myself. Anyway, my cats want to leave my room, so I'm gonna let them out now. We'll have to put a video of it. Wing going like, bleh. Let me get a model. What car should we use? This is my track focus car. Dusty. As you're very dusty. So what that does, oh no, this car's not meant to do Aerovectoring. My spoiler's broken. It's okay. Was it because, and I don't have a car with any Aero Flaps, which is kind of sad. Actually, let me get another one. No, I don't have one. Never mind. That was a good video. I talked for a long time.